Blueprints, The Residents, and June, War for Arrakis. This is Staying In. I feel the need to defend myself. In the last episode, I was critiqued for my lack of appearance. Full disclosure, I did choose football over
Friends,
the podcast, which is not something I would usually do. I've missed many a game in the past to spend some lovely time with you guys.
it's worth saying, Dan, you weren't actually playing in the game.
I mean, I felt like I was. I was there with the lads, you know, with my teammates, my 11 millionaire teammates that I'll never meet. But I was there, kind of heart and soul with them. I don't feel guilty about it. It was one of the best footballing experiences I've ever had. So I don't feel bad at all. That was the mighty Aston Villa up against the mighty Paris Saint-Germain, as you gracefully did mention in the podcast. But I did feel there's a bit of criticism towards me that perhaps I objected to. In the same breath, you did also criticise Chris, and I don't think he deserved any criticism for not being there. As Chris, you had a much as good as my reasoning was for not being there. You had a much better reason for not being there.
Yeah, honeymoon.
Yeah.
Just me and my 11 millionaire friends. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was brilliant. It's a shame Pete's not here because obviously whenever we talk about trips abroad, the first thing Pete wants to know about is the toilet situation. Because if you think about when he went to Bulgaria, that was his... what's the opposite of a headline or highlight? Low light?
Low light. Yeah.
Yeah. No, Egypt's a great country. Great country. Highly recommend.
But do tell us about the toilet situation.
Yeah, let's lead with that. Let's lead with the important stuff.
Well, Dan, Sam and I saw each other just a few days beforehand, and Sam had known some people that had gone to Egypt, and like the word Sam used was like one of them lost like a stone in weight because of like everyone in their hotel got like horrific like food poisoning.
And that's exactly what you want to hear just before you go on your honeymoon, isn't it? It's really kind of that's the message you want to be leaving these shores with.
Not technically food poisoning, just foreign bacteria.
Yeah, no, sorry, yeah, it's a fair thing, and that can happen wherever you travel in the world. Like you could literally be across the channel in France, for example. But me being me, I think 14 days, right? So I think I bought out like...
How much Imodium did you take, Chris?
Oh, all of it, Sam. Took with me, not took myself. That's it. I just took a whole packet before I left.
I love some of the alternative commentary during the King's coronation was great because I remember one person just putting up on Twitter, that man is so full of Imodium right now. Like no one's going to take that risk.
But when I got there, Dan, we were given like a little leaflet of like things to bear in mind when you're here. You know, things like the tipping culture, but also drinking enough water, because one of the things that can cause issues like that is dehydration, actually, funnily enough. And they actually had a whole separate section of the pamphlet we were given devoted to what they call the Pharaoh's Revenge.
No, they don't.
Yeah, I kid you not, Pharaoh's Revenge, which is where people who are visiting the country for the first time can kind of get upset tummy. But I had none of that. It was an absolute lap of luxury for 2 weeks on a boat going down the Nile, just watching the landscape slowly reveal itself. You know, deserts, palm trees, ibises.
The hotel was there.
I was going to say not the hotel chain.
That's convenient.
No, not the
isn't it?
hotel chain. Just tons of them. Which came
Premier
first?
Inn,
Pyramids, Sphinx.
there's-
Ibis.
The eighth wonder
Travel
of the
Lodge.
world, the ibis. I went inside the Great Pyramid, which is extraordinary.
Because I'm actually interested about this because I actually not long, literally a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't know this. I spoke to someone who'd been to Egypt. I assume the pyramid is one of those things where, like, it's boarded off and you can only look at it from a distance, that kind of thing. So because obviously it's all kind of prepared, but like no, like not only can you go inside some of the pyramids, but like it's not been necessarily made for lots of tourism. You do have to like crawl your way through and kind of like very claustrophobic kind of thing. Like how was that?
That was fine. Like, it was very hot though, I should say. It was like a kiln in there because of just the kind of the dry air, essentially. Because this was a room that was only designed for a one-way trip.
Yeah.
A pharaoh going in there.
They didn't really have to think about air conditioning.
No, because it was meant to, you know, hermetically sealed almost. It was meant to be a narrow passageway because they were so paranoid, quite rightly so, about tomb robbers that they just would build in like big drops and stuff and the steep angles and very low. And, you know, I remember it was just like really quite tricky work kind of going up and down. There's not really ladders. It's more like boards which have got rungs on them. So it's that really weird kind of hinterland between being a ladder and like just a series of floorboards, essentially.
It's kind of like a, and I mean this in the best possible way, like a kid's playground where they're going up a slope with the wooden rungs that enable you to kind of climb up easily.
That's exactly it, yeah. But like I was saying when I messaged you, like it was really weird being there. I had this weird sense of deja vu because a few months before I'd done this exact same journey in Assassin's Creed Origins. Like it was like exact. It was bizarre. But I've been down so many tombs. I saw Tutankhamun's tomb, which is pretty cool. I saw the bloke himself. Not looking great, but like got to get up close and personal with King Tutankhamun.
Good.
I swam on a boat on water. Never done that before. That was a novel experience.
So there was a pool.
I was in a pool
on the boat that you were on. That was okay.
Yeah. Going down the Nile. That was really cool.
So did you spend the entire kind of your entire trip staying on the? Obviously leaving the boat to see things, but there wasn't like multiple different kind of accommodations. It was just the one.
14 days on a boat. This is the bougiest thing I've ever done in my life. Like, genuinely. Like, they changed our towels twice a day. I don't know if it was just because of me. I don't know. But, like, every time we came into our room in the afternoon, they'd made something out of the towels on the bed. I'd never had that experience before. I've seen it in films.
Yeah, that's great.
Where, like, there'll be a peacock or a snake, or one day a crocodile.
A snake, that
Yeah,
that hotel is not trying hard enough. If all they can come up with is snake.
Yeah, but they would take things like oh, I left my glasses on the side, so they put the glasses on the head, for example.
Oh, so they're touching your stuff now, are they? This bougie hotel is not really.
Were you tempted to leave out random things, like just as like a temptation to say, "Oh, what could you do with
could
this?"
Could they do that? Yeah.
I've left a banana and a couple of apples. What are you gonna do?
Go on, MacGyver. Yeah, so like I was having 3-course meals twice a day, Dan. Lunch and dinner were 3-course, and like a breakfast buffet. Honestly,
Sounds like you're in your element.
This is incredible. And going down tombs, having lectures and watching documentaries.
And what was the cuisine of those 3 courses? Was it like ham sandwich, sponge and custard, or was it
It was really interesting that basically they prided themselves on that no meal was exactly the same each time.
Okay.
Which 14 days, fair enough. It's doable.
They didn't just make slight alterations.
Well, this is the thing. They kind of played fast and loose with the theme. So there was one meal, Dan, where it was like a French buffet, and you're thinking, okay, I'm going to waft in the air, and of France. Oh yeah, there's mushroom bourguignon. And then, oh, what's this? Oh, it's a steak pie. And okay, never saw that again. So I don't know whether that's just a thing they associate with France. Obviously, the steak pie isn't necessarily a British thing, but it's not something you necessarily think of straight away. I tried for breakfast. I remember having like wheat in warm milk. There's a name for it.
Weetabix.
Not like cereal, not like cornflakes. They also I had vermicelli pasta in warm milk for breakfast.
Oh, yeah. Lovely. I remember when we were in Bali for our honeymoon, and it's probably something to do with the weather, that the breakfasts were very extravagant and mealy. Like we'd have nasi goreng, like rice and eggs for breakfast. And I remember that being really odd at the time. But then you slowly get used to eating basically big lunches for breakfast.
There was a guy making omelettes, and my wife just couldn't say no to him every morning. She felt really bad if she didn't have an omelette, so she had 14 omelettes.
Wow.
Back-to-back omelette. But no, it was great. Honestly, what a country. We went there in a heat wave. I discovered the power of linen trousers in that kind of climate. Have you ever worn linen, Dan?
Yeah, I once wore a linen suit to a wedding.
Oh my, that's brave, because they creased up like hell.
Yeah, it was my sister's wedding, and it was in Koh Samui in Thailand, and I wore a linen suit, and it was very much the right decision.
Yeah, but you got to watch your bag of coke, haven't you?
Yeah.
Sorry, which series of the White Lotus was this, Dan?
We talked a bit about Chris's extravagance. I may have done something not equally as extravagant, much more idiotic,
Sam.
and
Have you done a thing?
Have we got to the point now where you need to kind of run all these things by us before you actually kind of make these decisions? I feel like you need a panel of people to judge your purchases.
And typical me. I 100% hold my hands up and just say that I am a hypocrite, and I'm happy to be called it, and I'm an idiot. But I did do a thing the other day. I pre-ordered a Switch 2.
Oh, crikey, that's not what I was thinking of. I think you were going to talk about your wonderful investments of Dune War of Arrakis, which I've not yet played, and you bought the expansion for as well.
Already, yeah.
He's clearly doesn't feel guilty about that one.
No, don't.
Okay, well, you can tell this is guilty, Dan, because usually Sam will just say, "Look what I've done," sent a picture, looking for a response. He's not even done that with us.
But for people listening, Sam is here literally with head in hands.
Whoa! Now
I can't afford this.
So now there'll be a lot of people. There are going to be a lot of people listening to this, Sam, who'll be in a similar boat to you. They're on the fence, thinking, "Okay, I've got a Switch. I'm happy with it."
Yes.
Well, like myself, they may have a Switch Lite. What was it about the Switch 2 that made you go, "I need to pre-order it now"? Because I'm generally curious about this.
I don't know.
No, yeah. Is it the stand? Is it the fact you can charge it from the top? Because other than that,
you just really want to just play lots of like point and click mouse and keyboard games.
The mouse stuff actually looks super good. Like I've seen some videos of some people using the mouse functionality, and it actually looks really, really good. I mean, I don't know, but I have to say it was the most pleasant pre-ordering experience I've ever had in my life. Like the pain of getting a PS5 was awful, and that wasn't even close to its release date. But I remember having to set alarms for 3:00 in the morning for when the Argos sale came up to get a copy, and like finally getting it, and I had like 3 computers side by side, all on different Amazon accounts to try and get a PS5, and also like the Ring Fit Adventure during the height of COVID as well, being a massive undertaking, and that alone was putting me off the pre-ordering experience of the Switch 2, because I didn't really want it that much to go through all that pain and heartache again. I just thought I'll just get it when I see it in a shop and it's available. Then I got an email from Currys, right? And we are not sponsored by PC World Currys on this show, but I got an email from them saying, if you want to pre-order the Switch 2, you've got to come to us. Come and speak to one of our advisors in store now. And I was like, okay.
like it's a mortgage.
Yeah. Okay, I'll do that. And
you're so easily swayed, Sam. You're so easily swayed. All it took was one kind of blanket email that got sent to everybody who has an account with Currys, and it was like, yes, I will. Yes, I know that is a personal message directly only to me. I will take you up on that offer.
And I was thrown back to the early thousands, electronics boutique, pre-ordering something off a piece of paper in an electronics store, and it was absolutely wonderful. I got there early in the morning, asked the guy behind the counter, can you still pre-order Switch 2s? He goes, yeah, absolutely. He turned around and got a physical binder out of a cupboard that I had to fill out. I had to like tick boxes of what I wanted, like which bundles and did I want any of the accessories, and I found the whole experience not alone because like how awful I found other like pre-ordering and like attaining tech experiences really difficult and awkward, and you just not really working very well. Like, I think that approach to it is probably not going to net them a lot of orders. But I tell you what, scalpers aren't going down to Curry's in Greater Manchester to buy up a load of switches and then sell them on for hundreds and thousands of pounds. So I completely understand why Currys have done it. And I had a wonderful time. Me and the guy behind the counter were chatting about, you know, the accessories to get and about how, you know, Nintendo did a dirty on everyone with the SD cards and, you know, how that's wonderful. And he taught me into getting a case and a screen protector. Like I just really felt like, you know, this is, you know, I was really living the dream of 10-year-old me, which was probably, was it around that time? The last thing I pre-ordered in a physical shop was Mario Kart Wii. The previous thing to that was a copy of WWF Raw on the PlayStation, and I got a free cap for doing that. But the whole experience did make me feel exceptionally nostalgic for that time, that era of video game. But the reason why, I don't know, I just got a promotion at work and I was feeling idiotic. There we go. That I think that's all you need to know. And I'm intrigued.
I applaud you, Sam, because I'm a big believer in sometimes remembering to pat yourself on the back and actually having something there to recognise that fact for yourself.
Thanks.
You know?
Yeah. Thanks.
Yep. I mean, it's ludicrous.
It's ludicrous. I've bought one game for it.
Yeah. GTA 6.
Was it Mario Kart?
It was Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Because the other game I want doesn't come out till July. So, you know, onwards and upwards. Well done, Nintendo. But I'll let you know how it all goes. The thing that I'm mostly worried about now is that they promised to email me my receipt, but they didn't. And now I'm convinced, and this is how my brain works, now I'm convinced someone else somewhere has been sent an email receipt for a Switch 2, and they're going to turn up before me when they're released in
you
June.
were just chatting with a random guy called Jake who'd stolen a Curry's t-shirt and has been taking people's money from him.
No, didn't have that. Didn't even have that down. It was just the binder.
Yeah.
Just a man walking around with a binder.
Nothing in it.
No. And I've got to keep the physical receipt because obviously when I was having this mild anxiety attack about my email, I rang them up.
Here we go.
Sam, have you ordered two?
No, I just don't know why I'm such an idiot.
Okay, how long you got?
It's anxiety. It is what it does to you. So I rang them up and explained the situation, and the poor lady was completely like, "Really, is that what you're worrying about?"
Yeah. Have you seen the news?
There's a lot of stuff going on, Sam.
Yeah, I know. And she just said, "No, don't worry about it. You need the physical receipt to so that's locked away." until it's released, which will be when this gets released, we are about sort of 15-20 days away, something like that. So yeah, I'll let you know how it goes, but I cannot pinpoint really one solid reason as to why, other than the promotion, other than I'm an idiot.
But treat yourself.
And I treat myself, and you know, I'd like the Switch to be my son's. So I was naturally going to graduate onto a Switch 2 at some point. So I just kind of, you know, took the gamble, and he can have the Switch a bit sooner if he wants it. So I did it for him. I did it for the next generation.
And if you've got to take that hit,
yeah, the epitome of martyrdom.
I've got things to say about The Residents, but I'm going to let those who enjoyed it talk before.
So one of my favourite things over the last year or so, Dan, is playing the Sam Turner bingo card of like his main thing when he critiques stuff he doesn't like. It's the T word. Tonally, it's all over the place.
Totally.
Like if you look back, if you listen back to previous episodes of this podcast, and if there's something that Sam doesn't like, the first thing he makes a beeline for is tone
And tempo.
And I kind of agree to an extent. Like when I first started watching The Residence, which I know you've watched as well, Dan. We were talking about it when we were staying at yours not that long ago, because I thought like you and your wife equally also. I think we all do actually. We all like kind of a murder mystery.
Mm-hmm.
But I also know, Dan, that you quite like, correct me if I'm wrong, like kind of American political dramas as well, like American politics.
Yeah. I like kind of talky films, that kind of thing. So kind of that kind of intrigue.
So this seemed perfect, really. It comes from Paul William Davis, I'm not really familiar with.
No.
Developed by Shondaland for Netflix, and it's a murder mystery set in the White House. The thing that interests me the most about this is it's based on a non-fiction book, and because it says based on a book, and I thought, okay, that's interesting. So I looked into it, and the book itself is called The Residence Inside the Private World of the White House by Kate Anderson Bauer, and it's basically just people who worked as kind of housekeeping staff in the bit of the White House, the non-politicky bit of the White House, who basically were like the housekeepers, the cooks, the caretakers, the carpenters, the painters, the gardeners, all these people really. Yeah. And then he saw that book. He was approached to kind of say, can you do something with this? He said, yeah, I'll turn it into a murder mystery. Because when he was kind of looking at the White House itself as a building, he said, that looks like a Cluedo board. And it's really interesting. There are shots in the series, because this is a TV series, 8 episodes long, where you kind of have that top-down effect. You're looking at the front, and it does feel like a big board game in terms of how it's being presented. But I thought it was quite interesting to have a narrative set in the White House that doesn't show the Oval Office whatsoever. You don't see the West Wing. It is entirely the bits you don't usually see of the White House. And it is, so far, the biggest recreation of a White House structure that's ever existed in any media, film or television. I mean, the production values on this series alone are incredible.
Yeah.
And the premise is essentially that during a state dinner at the White House, the chief usher is murdered, and you have this kind of eccentric detective who's also a bird watcher called Cordelia Cupp brought in to solve the case. Now, immediately, I was kind of a bit put off by the fact that this felt to me like what looked to be a Knives Out ripoff.
Well, isn't the first episode called Knives Out? Like, aren't the episode titles are named after other famous?
Yeah, so I think the first episode is called The Fall of the House of Usher.
That's right. Yeah. Then it's Knives Out. Then it's Murder She Wrote or something like that.
Dial M for Murder is one of them as well.
Yeah.
There's The Yellow Room, which is the last episode, which I think is Edgar Allan Poe's story, I think. But like it's a real love letter to that. And they say, look, we were inspired by Knives Out. So, they're saying, look, we were inspired by that. Yeah. And what I mean by that is a quite tricksy, complex kind of murder plot with lots of kind of flashbacks. Now, what's on my bingo card for stuff I typically don't like, and this is the thing that Sam called me out on when I said I like The Residence, was the first thing he said was, but Chris, it's got loads of flashbacks in it. And he knows, like many people do, I don't tend to like flashbacks. Dan, you and I love Lost University, but often I go, oh gosh, not the flashback. I want to know more about the island. Why we keep going back to Off the Island? But like, if the flashbacks are there to help me understand the plot and explore the mystery a bit more, cool, I get it. Because otherwise, with some murder mysteries I see on television or in film, I'm thinking, why wasn't this a book? Because actually, you're not really using the medium. You're not doing stuff with the medium that you can't do in a book. So like flashbacks that help the plot are like almost like the equivalent of those classic murder mysteries where, like the Deccan House murders, Sam, where you've got the map at the beginning and I'm flicking back and forth to the map. Going, oh, okay, well, hang on, does that mean this, and this? And I found it quite wry, quite funny. I really like the character of Cordelia Cupp. I actually really want to get into birds now. It's been on the back burner for a while. Sam's introduced me to an app called the Merlin app, which my dad uses. Which is basically Shazam for birdsong.
Yeah, it's great. It's so much fun. Yeah.
But I found it quite poignant in places. It focuses on various members of the household. So you'll have an episode that might be devoted to the plumber or the florist or the calligrapher, and you recognise that, like, in a kind of an industry that they're in, where it's all about being at the height of discretion, It's about keeping tight-lipped. There's a sequence where they talk about how the head usher is trained to walk into a room, and if there's politics being discussed, they literally tune out of it. They're trained to tune out of it. They don't hear it, even though it's happening in front of them, because they're meant to be just in the background and not to be intrusive whatsoever. And I know some people say Knives Out. For me, with that angle, it reminds me a lot of Gosford Park. I don't know if any of you watched that, which is quite an old film now, which is kind of like set in that, I think it's set in the Edwardian era. It's like a murder that happens in a mansion. It's got a very illustrious cast. I'm surprised you've not seen it, Dan. I think it'd be one that you'd quite like, actually. It's a bit silly in places, but kind of restrained silliness, if that makes sense. There's a touch of the kind of Wes Anderson in terms of the camera choices and stuff like that. But as a mystery, I found it really interesting. And I think it hangs together quite well.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you. It definitely it scratches that kind of only murders in the building itch for me. That kind of, it's a nice mystery going on there, but it's not taken fully seriously. There is humour, it's comedy in it. Sam's inevitable comments about it being tonally overplaced, I see there are certain characters who just kind of feel a little out of place because they're there purely for comedic value and they don't really kind of sit within that world. Kind of like you, I actually really enjoy the character of Cordelia Cup, played by Uzo Aduba. I think often that character could be just really token and really kind of stereotyped or just a bit silly, and I think she manages to walk that fine line between doing some really silly stuff but actually still keeping it still works really well within that role. You do get that sense, like all of these, I mean, she's referred to as a consulting detective. Any of these kind of Sherlock Holmes type characters in any variety of different kind of forms of entertainment they find themselves, like, she does have that element of, I know I'm the smartest in the room and I'm going to kind of take advantage of that and I'm going to talk down to people. But also she never feels like a negative person. You're always rooting for her. She's always kind of doing the stuff that, she's following the investigative line to where you want it to go. You mentioned about the design of that was the design of the show, especially that whole idea of like the Cluedo kind of thing. That's been like the camera work. I'd say camera work because it's obviously not camera work, it's CGI and stuff, but all of that stuff is really, really worked for me. And I really liked it, how the camera might zoom out of the house and the walls fall away, and so you can see inside all the rooms at the same time, or how the camera will zoom through the corridors and the hallways, and you get to see kind of all the intricacies of this kind of huge, like almost city of a building. And I really enjoyed that element of it. I've not watched all of it yet, so I can't kind of comment particularly on the scope of the mystery, because I don't really know how it's all going to play out. I think the cast is really good. Like the people, obviously, Uzo Aduba, Giancarlo Esposito is obviously someone who I love, and I think he's brilliant in it as well. There's lots of little supporting characters that I like. The show's framed, I think, quite interesting, and it kind of feeds the way they feed into the flashbacks. It's framed around a Senate hearing that is happening like a year in the future or however long, helmed by real life former Senator Al Franken, comedian actor Al Franken, who was a senator a number of years ago. But I did really enjoy it, and I think the one element of the mystery that I really liked, and this really plays into it towards the start of the series, is often with a mystery, whether it's Knives Out or anything like that, there's about 5 or 6 people that it's clear one of them is the killer. You can kind of know that because, like, okay, you're showing me certain things, and my brain is attuned to these kinds of shows or films, and I know how it works. What The Residence does is, very early on, throws a lot at the wall in terms of suspicious looking people, and I like the fact that every person they show me looks suspicious, purposefully so. Someone closes a door and they look all kind of suspicious behind it. Someone else is doing something kind of with the florist is smashing up the flowers, and why is he doing that? And there is so much of that you do have that sense of, I have no idea where this is going, so my brain kind of wants to switch off from that thing of, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure it out really quickly. When I saw Glass Onion, I got really disappointed because I saw the thing that you're not supposed to see. There was a twist in it, a reveal in it that I just saw straight away. I'm like, well, that's... And then it just ruined everything else for me. So I quite like the fact that it is throwing a lot at the wall, that you don't know where it's going. You don't know what that story's going to play out because they're purposely giving you so much that usually you wouldn't get. And that makes it a lot more interesting to kind of follow then.
Sam, have you seen it all?
Yep, completed it.
Completed it.
I beat it, mate.
Beat it.
Beat it. I mean, thinking about it, there's a lot that I don't actually. I don't disagree with a lot of either of you have said. I think the way it obfuscates the mystery, Dan, is probably one of its biggest trump cards in terms of the one thing that always frustrates me about murder mysteries, and this is the one thing that frustrates me about Only Murders quite a lot of the time, is they spend so many episodes convinced it's one person, and it's never the first person.
No, yeah.
Never, and it's just like we're wasting time here because I know it's not this person. Whereas the Residence does go through great lengths to make sure that everyone in the house has got a motive for killing the guy. And at one point, they do reference Murder on the Orient Express, because it's literally just like, it could have been all of them, because the way it's set up, it could have been every one of them. Like, and I think I completely agree that I think the casting is amazing. It's great to see Randall Park in a series where he's actually got stuff to do and acting to do, and a character that has thoughts and feelings and does things, and actually really is the straight man to Cordelia Cupp's more eccentric persona. So I really enjoy it. And same with Giancarlo Esposito. I feel like he actually isn't just the quote unquote bad guy. He's actually got a character, and it's got an arc, and like there's light and shade to him. Like I think he's doing things. And then like Ken Marino, who we would have previously seen in Brooklyn Nine-Nine as like the idiot captain cop, actually, you know, really chewing up the scenery and going full force as this like really acerbic and irate basically best friend to the president. And I think that's what I struggled most with it, is I think the series has got so much going for it, but it is edited in a way that I just found completely exhausting. It was like what I imagine watching TikTok is like. Like every 10 seconds it changing to a new thing, or cutting back or flashing back, and then sometimes it will stop and it will pause and be like, oh, I'm quite liking this, and then it's flashing back and flashing forward and going sideways and upside down and switching onto a new thing every 20 seconds. And I just wanted it to stop. Just please stop. I get it. I get what you're doing. I get that you want to be this funny, irreverent show, but sometimes you've just got to let the show breathe and let the characters be who they want to be. And I genuinely think that it was that when they were editing it, they edited it in a way that they didn't trust that the audience would be able to follow along. So it's like, right, we've got to go back, remind people about this bit, cut back, remind people about this bit, cut back. And it completely pulled me out of it every time they did it. Eventually, it was like, you know, it was an 8-episode series. It should have been 4 or 5. Really a lot snappier, really got the best out of that directing style. And it's the same with like the Doll's House stuff. Like it's sort of like they switched that on and switched that off when it felt appropriate rather than when it felt narratively appropriate. And the same with the flashback stuff. It kind of like felt like tools that they were using just when they felt it was necessary, rather than it was tonally really wrapped up in the presentation of the thing. The thing that annoyed me the most out of all of it...
Here we go, sleeves rolled up.
The thing that annoyed me the most out of all of it, slight spoiler for the end here. If you are going to reference a celebrity over and over and over and over and over again, and they are not in your TV series, don't do it. Especially if you have got a well-known celebrity in your TV series who does appear and actually ends up being a suspect for the crime. I just found that really infuriating, that they have actually a celebrity in it as the name of Kylie Minogue, who has lines, who is part of it, but they reference Hugh Jackman over and over and over again, and it's clearly never Hugh Jackman. It never will be Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman is never ever going to appear in this TV series, and I just felt that mind-blowingly stupid. Like, I just didn't understand. I just found it a massive distraction. Like, why references? But he's never going to be, like, in some ways that denigrates Kylie Minogue's presence, because it's just like, Hugh Jackman couldn't be bothered to turn up to this, but you could. Sorry, Kylie. Like, what? Like, it just seemed like strange. I just couldn't. Yeah. I finished it and I went, that was all right. And then the more time I spent away from it, the more angrier I got. So yeah, sorry that Hugh Jackman doesn't turn up. But you knew that from episode 1 when they showed you the back of his head and a terrible Australian accent.
And I think in terms of the flashbacks, I really valued those because a lot of it is trying to map out the timeline of an evening. And as you've said, like you've got all these suspects across different floors trying to map out where they cross. And every time you see someone and talk to them, they'll be like, yeah, I saw this person here. And it is almost like Sexy Brutale or like those kinds of video games where you've got to kind of try and piece it. And
Like that Overboard kind of thing.
yeah, which I saw that you've been playing.
But then show me the doll's house. Then that's what I mean by they were using all these tools, but in completely the wrong way. Like
yeah,
if,
so you can
if
see it
that
mapped
was the
out,
benefit of it, and that was the way that her brain was working,
Yeah.
then show me the doll's house because geographically, despite them going over and over and over it all the time, I completely lost where I was
and
geographically.
I agree to an extent because I think that's the tension they're always going to have with Netflix, which drops everything at once. Because say if you had that doll's house and it was being used practically to try and look at the time scale, it would be a proper water cooler television where people would be meeting, talking about their theories and actually having the opportunity to work it out. But it's not possible to work this out until you've seen everything.
7 out of 10.
There you go, Dan. Right, while I was away, I played one game, a little game called Balatro on holiday. I don't want to talk about that because I've already...
It's because it's amazing.
It is amazing. It is amazing. 7 out of 10. No, it is amazing. It really is amazing game. I can't remember I think it was a taxi journey to the airport. I can't remember it because I was sucked into Balatro. And also my flight to Egypt was Balatro focused.
Look, Chris, it's the Sphinx. Look, Chris, it's the great
Well,
pyramids.
we did, sticking on the murder mystery theme, we watched Death on the Nile projected on a screen on the Nile.
I love that.
That was amazing.
Everyone looking around a little shiftily.
Well, yeah, because if you think about Death on the Nile, it's set where a couple are on a honeymoon.
Yeah, I know.
I know.
On exactly where you were.
But there was a big game that launched that I completely missed because I was away on my Hollywolls, and I've resigned myself to the fact that first wave is gone, and I will pick it up at some point when it goes cheap. I've missed the buzz.
Yeah.
And when I spoke to you, Sam, about it, you said a bit like imbued with the mystery of that guy from Curry's who sold you the Switch 2. It's not the game you think it is, Chris.
No, it's
You don't even know what I think it is, Sam.
No, I don't.
What is the Blueprint?
It's a game that I've become quietly obsessed with. Not only me, but my wife as well, who doesn't play video games, but she is the one saying, "Can we play Blueprints again? Can we play? Can we have another go? Can we?" Yeah, Blueprints from developer Dogubomb, kind of run by kind of visual artist Tonda Ross. It's the kind of the first game out of that studio. In terms of what kind of game is it, like it's kind of a hybrid deck builder, which if you know me and deck builders, you'd be surprised to know that I've become obsessed with this, but there is absolutely deck building elements to it. It's a kind of a hybrid deck builder, roguelite, first person, puzzler. It's a lot of things kind of all at once. The setup of the game is you play a young guy who has inherited from a wealthy uncle this huge mansion on top of Mount Holly. As my wife is called Holly, she also got a kick out of that. And you arrive at this house and you're told that the house has 45 rooms, but you have been charged with trying to find the 46th room.
I'm in.
So that is, from the beginning, that is the crux of the game. The game starts, it kind of casually zooms into the house through past the words day one, and it leaves you in the entrance hall in front of 3 doors, which you can then choose. When you open a door, you then are able to draft rooms to build your house. So the nature of the game, called Blueprints, as in royalty, also as the game we played a while back, Mints or Mints, it's also the term blueprints for a house. And so that I did actually, as we were playing, I was like, oh yeah, we spent ages trying to think of a a different alternative to mints and mints, but blueprints and blueprints is a good one.
Yeah.
So once you're in the house, you have a blueprint. The house is made up of a 9x5 grid of 45 spaces. You know the entrance hall is in the middle at the bottom, and the only other room you know is at the top of this grid is the antechamber. That's all you know. And so everything else is built through going through doors and drafting one of 3 potential rooms. Now the rooms will vary in terms of the direction they go, the exits, the entry points. Some contain puzzles, some contains items, and you just kind of build up over the course of the game this house. The deck building element means certain rooms link together, whether it's a puzzle that can link to another room, or one type of room might encourage you to get different types of rooms. So it's never the same, but you're learning something every time. And I think the game's wonderful ability to slowly eke out information each time brings you back time and time again. You play it through for a certain length of time, and the way the game constructs its time frame is number of steps. Every time you enter a new space, you lose 1 step, and you start the game with 50 steps. So what that means is you do kind of have a time limit as to how long each day will last. And at the end of the day, the entire house resets and you start again. But obviously you start again with new knowledge, not knowledge that's carried forward into the next day, but in your own mind, I know that this room links to here or this links to here. As the game progresses, there are different things you can bring in that will enable you to maybe carry some information across the days, but it's all very kind of unique, and you start to put pieces together in your own mind. Quite early on, and the game actually tells you this, it tells you, get a piece of paper. You need to be writing some of this stuff down. It's the one area where I've struggled with, because I'm not a big note taker when I play games. I really struggle with that. And so I'm trying to keep a lot of information in my head, which is not easy. Obviously, I've got my wife there with me, so she's noting things down. But I don't know if she's noting everything down that's important. Because the game isn't...
Get milk.
Because the game isn't just drafting rooms.
Yeah.
As the game progresses, a narrative mystery is also revealing itself.
What the hell? Did somebody enter my dreams? This is incredible.
It's not the game you think it is.
It's not the game you think it is. There is a whole other aspect to it.
Oh my gosh. Dare I ask how long to beat.com?
Part of me thinks that is a bit of a spoiler for...
Fair enough. No, I get it. Well, maybe a better question is, what should I be playing this on, or what can you play this on? Is this a console only title? Is it Steam only?
No, it's all on console. Yeah, and Steam.
Just to give you what I can say in terms of how long to beat is, there is a certain room that you find in the house where within that room there is a book which basically gives you information about how long you've been playing. It's like it only occurs in one room, and you find that book and it says you've been playing for 14 hours. Your longest day was 1 hour and a half. Your average day is 50 minutes. So I can tell you from me so far, I've played, I think I'm on day 17, which means I've gone through the run 17 times. So sometimes I've nearly filled the entire grid. Other times, for whatever reason, I've hit a load of dead ends and it's ended really, really quickly. But for me, the average time for me has been about 50 minutes per run, and I've done 17 runs.
Yeah.
So that gives you an idea. Sometimes it's longer, depending on it. You might get a really good run of rooms, which means you can keep going. But you also might keep hitting roadblocks.
And that's answered my next question. Really, it's just that looping, whether that gets monotonous at times, or it just has that dopamine hit. It just keeps you coming back for more. I'm thinking like a la Deathloop, for example.
Yeah, Deathloop, and the same with like Balatro. I think is a really solid example for me in terms of how the thing that keeps you coming back for Balatro is not necessarily the end game. It's about discovery.
Yeah,
and it's about not knowing what is around the corner in terms of the jokers that you're going to be presented with. And, Blueprints does slightly the same trick in terms of, you can spend an hour exploring the house, getting up to the top space, and then ending up running out of steps or not quite getting the thing that you need to get there, and think, right, now I've got to start all over again. But just like with all the best roguelites, just like with things like Balatro, like the information that you carry along and the potential that you can actually reach is a thing that kind of spurs you on. And as Dan said, like the expert thing that Blueprints does, and I don't know how it does it, like it is amazing, is that you could step into a room 20 times and on the 21st time you'll see something new, and that will unlock something that will keep you playing for another 2 or 3 hours. Like everything is there on the first time you see it, and it's only by going into room after room after room after room after room that you, well, in some ways get blind to the mystery, but in some ways also unlock the mystery at the same time.
I actually had kind of one of those exact feelings literally last night. I was really happy it happened to me last night because I knew I'd be talking about it today. I had started to get kind of a little bit, tired is the wrong word, but kind of just a little bit worn out of it, because it is like you're constantly moving room to room, you're constantly looking around, you're looking for any little bit of clue, you're looking at the tiny cursor on your screen as to what can you interact with, because there's not a lot of stuff you can interact with, really. I mean, there is plenty of stuff, but kind of it's not a case of every room you go into there's 100 things to interact with. So it's quite intense, and I was getting a little bit kind of worn down by it. And like last night I said, I will be in, because my wife doesn't play games. She likes to watch, but she doesn't know, she's no good with the controller. So I said, that's fine. I will control the game, but you are responsible for choosing where we go and what we do. So I'll go into each room and I'll look for stuff and pick anything up. But then when it comes to drafting new rooms and navigating around this world, this house, that's on you. So she was doing that. And we just stumbled across something that took me from being kind of sitting back, relaxing, just going through the motions of moving room to room, to suddenly jumping up and being like, okay, this is big. This is a big...
I'm taking over.
This is a big movement. We can really move forward now. Like, there's been certain things that we've been aware of all this while that suddenly we've got like that little nugget that suddenly a load of stuff makes sense. Okay, now we've got something that's really going to propel us forward.
That's
and it has
fantastic.
sense. It's really good at doing that and just leaving breadcrumbs that once you just get something else, suddenly kind of synapses fire and bang, 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 bang. Okay, I know where I need to go next, or what I need to do next. There might be something you find, and I might go into a room and I find a pair of car keys. I've not seen a car. What are these? And so suddenly you're like, okay, something's in this house that's going to have something to do with a car. And now I might not find it that time, but now I know that exists in this game. I might not always find it, but I'll know for if I find something else. And it's just that kind of thing of suddenly, bang, the game was almost started afresh. I'm 17 days in, and I'm excited again.
So there are a few board games out there where someone will say to you, oh, it's this in a box.
Yeah.
I own one of them. I own Lord of the Rings in a box.
Lord of the Rings in a box.
There is Star Wars Rebellion. Oh, guess what? It's Star Wars in a box. And I thought those are the only two in a box games that are out there. And what I mean by in a box games are games which essentially you are playing out the story and have the opportunity, almost in a kind of a sandbox way, to make alternative choices that affect that narrative. And it's really for those who are real big fans of the IP, essentially, and want to kind of have a sense of, oh, what if we did this? You know, in my case, in Lord of the Rings, what if Boromir doesn't die and actually stays on? Or what if Gimli just sods off and goes to the dwarves in Erebor? How does that change things, say, for example? You know, I've got War of the Ring, and we've played that a few times, Sam.
Loads. Love it.
You put a message on our WhatsApp group. You have bought something in a box.
Yes. And that something was Dune in a box, which is Dune War for Arrakis, which, again, another stupid, dumb thing that I did recently. It was my birthday, though. I'm very, very good at justifying things.
Yep.
But this was a thing for my birthday. I mean, me and you were talking about this, Chris, the other day, about how you said I was really surprised by like that's your thing,
Yeah.
like your franchise, because I feel like we all have a sort of a thing in life, like a franchise or like something bigger than ourselves that we're really invested in some sort of way, like, you know, like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, or in my case Dune. I mean, I don't think, whether it looks like that from the outside, you know, fair enough if that's what it does. I mean, I do have like the books and 2 board games for Dune, so maybe so. But for me, it's like, it's not, I don't think I'm that invested in the world. I think I just really like the world and find a lot of interesting details and nuances within it that I'm just really sort of excited to explore. So War of the Ring is, I think, is an incredible board game. Like it's an amazing achievement, but Lord of the Rings is just not something that I am wholly sort of invested in. Like for me, like playing that game again and again and again doesn't have the same appeal as Dune, War for Arrakis, which plays out pretty much the first book of Dune. So you join the action in media res almost. You know, it joins the book just after the Harkonnens have double-crossed House Atreides. So if you're not familiar with Dune, House Atreides come and take over Dune, Arrakis, the desert planet, from the Harkonnens. But it's all a trick. It's all a trap. And the minute they land, pretty much the Harkonnens take it back with the help of Emperor Shaddam IV. And
So you don't sound that invested in the world.
No, I don't. No, I don't. And then the rest of the game is one player plays as House Harkonnen, the baddies, and the other player plays as House Atreides, quote unquote, the goodies, and you reenact, for want of a better phrase, the whole of the first book, or parts 1 and 2 of the movies, whatever you're most familiar with. And I think the reason why we're referencing War of the Ring so much is that it is designed by the same people who brought you War of the Ring. And it shares a lot of the same DNA, a lot of the same mechanics, but applied to a different fantastical world. And I invited a friend round to play it. The same friend who we played War of the Ring with, and then he got pneumonia. I don't think those two things are...
Yeah, that was a very odd thing just to add there, Sam. Feels like a kind of a bit of a slight there against Tolkien's work.
But he didn't get pneumonia after playing War for Arrakis, so...
What did he get instead?
It's the better game. A thrill. And 4 hours later, almost beat for beat, we had reenacted most of the events from the first book. And in some ways, like, I think it's odd when you talk about a game like that and getting a thrill from it, because I always think, well, doesn't that take the fun out of the game? If you know what is essentially going to happen or what might happen, where is the fun?
Could I just ask? You obviously mentioned you've already got 2 other Dune games. I know, like back when we did our like top 10 things to stay in with, like you somehow managed to get all of Dune as one of your options. I don't quite understand to this day how you managed that.
All in.
Like if you've already got 2 kind of Dune games, I would have assumed that they would have also followed the story or that world of Dune. So how does this one differ compared to those in terms of its ability to tell that story?
Yeah, so Dune Imperium Uprising is, I'd say it is a game set in the world of Dune. And that's it. Like it is the artwork, it is the world, it is, it is Spice, it is Melange, it is the Bene Gesserit, etc., but you are not, recreating the films. You are in that world. However, with War for Arrakis, the game is structured in a way that you are very much playing out a sequence of events. So from the moment you play, even how the board state is set up, is that the Harkonnens are the dominant force. There is just more Harkonnens on the board, and they are in the middle of the board. They are in the central city and village areas. Everyone else, the House Atreides, are scattered in the Sietches and in the deserts and the ergs of Arrakis, which is exactly how it starts, how the sort of book starts once the Harkonnens take hold of Arrakis once more. And then how the game is structured is by using this points ladder. So both sides are trying to win the game by getting to the tops of these ladders or getting up to certain positions within these ladders. And when they do, that triggers things that will happen in the game. And things that happen later on in the book trigger later on the ladders of these games. So in that sense, you are really thrust into this world where you are not just inhabiting or playing a game with a set of mechanics within the world of Dune, like you are in Dune Imperium. You are actually reliving the events, because the events become apparent as you go through the steps of the campaign. So, for example, if you want to unlock the family atomics to blow the wall to let the sandworms attack into the central villages and areas around the center of Arrakis, you can only do that later on in the game once you've ascended to a certain point on the ladder as House Atreides. Just like in the book, that only happens in the last few chapters, that they get access to the family atomics and they're able to do that. Before then, what you're doing as Paul Atreides is you're mustering your forces, is you're getting the Fremen to be on your side. Your Lady Jessica is trying to ascend to Reverend Motherhood as part of the Bene Gesserit. And all these things are kind of happening in sequence with the Harkonnens, where the Beast Rabban is ruling Arrakis, and then he gets replaced by Feyd-Rautha, and then the Emperor suddenly lands with his Sardaukar army, and all that. All these things, all these little narrative beats happen step by step to really enforce that, you know, you are playing through like the steps of the books.
And I appreciate, Sam, you don't know a lot about the Dune world. But like one thing that I quite liked about War of the Ring was that, as you say, you've got these different factions here and they're all at different stages. And in War of the Ring, there is this real asymmetry there. And what I liked about it is that what's appealing is that if you're a player that likes playing defensive, perfectly, you can play as the goodies in War of the Ring, because your job really is just to hang on for as long as possible whilst Frodo makes it to Mordor. Whereas if you're the baddies, you're just this sprawling mass, and it's just, I just want to keep attacking, because I need to get as many settlements as possible before the ring gets to Mordor, or find the ring bearer. Like, is there that asymmetry here? Is it quite distinctive? Like, okay, well, I'm playing as Paul Atreides here. I get these additional criteria, these additional roles here. I have mechanically, I'm doing something slightly different here because of what I'm doing here. Or I'm at a slight disadvantage in this area here because I have this additional ability here, which this other person, the opposing player, doesn't have. So therefore, when I get to the end of the game, I'm thinking, I want to really try it from your perspective now.
I think it shares a little less asymmetry in that regard to what War of the Ring does. I think that it is a more combative game. I think it expects you to be more attack-minded in its focus, which again is slightly different to how I think War of the Ring has a bit more of a slow burn to it, which narratively makes sense because you have to literally convince people that there is a war going on before really anyone can enter the fray, which is my favourite thing of War of the Ring.
Yeah.
Whereas in War for Arrakis, like, it is very clear that there is a war going on. Like, no one can deny it. Like, the planet has literally been turned over twice in the case of like a couple of days. But I think the imperatives for that combat come from two very different places. So for the Harkonnens, they're still trying to produce spice. So whilst they're also trying to find and kill the last remnants of House Atreides, they're also trying to meet the spice quotas set by like the Landstrad and Chome and all those wonderful, wonderful people. So if you play as the Harkonnens, you've almost got two considerations. You've got trying to hold off the Fremen, but also trying to have this like economy of spice that you're creating. And then therefore as the Atreides, you've got this other wonderful blend of how you use your combat. Is do you disrupt the spice production, or do you try and reclaim that the villages and the cities that have been overtaken by the Harkonnens? And therefore combat has these wonderful pinch points where you're always both kind of bluffing with each other in terms of what you might think might be important to you at that time. Add into the mix that you never know what the Atreides player is also deploying to the board. So they deploy completely in secret. It's unknown to the Harkonnen player. It's only revealed when they come across a siege or they come across a certain army that they've come across. So as a Harkonnens, you never really know the level of combat that you're going to be walking. So you can't really plan or prepare. Like you can over prepare and just go into something all guns blazing. But again, the Atreides player might just be played a complete bluff on you and got you to go into an area which isn't worth anything, leaving your harvesters completely undefended. And then you're losing spice production. And again, how wonderfully thematic this board game is. As we reach the end game, I just let the spice production go to pot. I was like, I just don't care anymore. Like I've just got to, I've got to focus on winning this game, and I just had to let spice production completely go out the window.
The spice must flow, Sam.
I know, but again, that's kind of what happens in the books. Like the Harkonnens become so obsessed by uncovering the Seeches and finding Paul Atreides that they just let spice production completely go out the window, which is one of the and then suddenly we got to a point where I was getting more and more points on the board because I completely let go of the spice production. And then the Emperor turns up on Arrakis like he does in the book, because he's just like, what is happening to all my spice? and it, like, we were not intending to do it. That's not the way that we went out to play. We did not go out to reinforce it, and in some ways it's probably a bit of subconscious bias and self-fulfilling prophecy that we were kind of like, oh my god, this is just like the books.
Christopher Walken's turned up.
But it just feels like such a thrill to play something which is so richly thematic, and already an astonishingly richly thematic world. And yes, I have bought the expansion for it. We are going to dedicate some more time to playing it. My one big warning for this is that at the time of recording, this game is published by CMON. CMON are currently encountering issues due to Donald Trump's tariffs. So I think there is a question to be raised about availability of this game come the future. Also, there is a massive question about the general production values and the quality of the game overall, considering its price.
I have heard this, yeah.
The quality of the minis is not great. After one playthrough, some of them are already broken, if not breaking, which is really, really not good considering, how much this actually cost me. Which is such a shame, because I think it is such an amazing experience, and it really does, for me, bring all the best bits of War of the Ring into a world where I feel much more entwined and invested in. So I absolutely love it. I think those are very small minor points, which is nothing to do with the actual gameplay or the mechanics or how it feels, because it feels just an absolute delight. I cannot wait for you to play it, Chris.
Oh my gosh!
I think
that's going to be our War Boys this year.
I think it will be War Boys this year. Yeah.
So after all the critique I got last time around for not showing up, what's Pete's reason for not showing up today?
Wow.
Did he even give one?
He did go on he looked like he went on a big holiday this weekend.
He
Yeah.
did. He was with some goats.
There were goats that he petted.
There were miniature trains.
There were miniature trains, which I have to say, some of them were about the same as a Switch 2. So
yeah,
I felt
I didn't measure that though. The cost of miniature trains, I had no idea was so so high. It's clearly a world that I know very little about.
Gold and miniature trains always hold their value.
So probably recovery time. I think that would have all been too much for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Too much excitement.
Or he's gone full in and he's currently assembling a little railway.
Yeah, he's sat like in the middle of a train like set that's just surrounding him.
In the breakfast in the morning, more tea, please, Alex. And then the train arrives.
Like Wallace and Gromit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Future recordings of the Staying In podcast will forever be known as, well, both post-train and pre-train, where all recordings will be ruined by Pete because it will just have...
Yeah. We all thought the Silent Hill PT was big, but
But wait for post-train, the
Yeah.
post-train era of Staying In.
and they can, if you want to kind of see anything of that as it develops, our main feed at the moment, I think, is Instagram. I think it's fair to say.
I think it's the only one.
By country mile, at Staying In Pod is our handle for that, as it is for most things, really. And if you just fancy emailing us, perhaps you've got your own views on the residents, or maybe you are in support of Sam and his recent pre-ordering of the Switch 2. Maybe you've done that yourself.
Yeah.
Maybe you've actually received Sam's order for his pre-order because you got a similar email. Who knows? Do let us know at stayinginpod@gmail.com. I'm going to add some music from the Resident soundtrack, which I think is quite nice.
And Blueprints as well, the soundtrack of Blueprints. Oh, it's amazing. It's great. Yeah, if you didn't think the game was great enough, and then you're just like, actually, this soundtrack is really, really good.
Oh, excellent. I listened to some Dune, Hans Zimmer's Dune, while I was on the top of the boat going down the Nile, and it was so perfect with the desert, so I might slap some more of that in.
Yeah.
So, yes, that's our curated Spotify list. Links to that will be in the show notes because it's a bit of a faff to find for some reason, but you can find it in the show notes here. The Blueprints will probably be in our Steam curation page, alongside other reviews and every single video game we've discussed that's available on Steam. If you like what we like, you feel we're kindred spirits, you can find that on the old Steam page. And likewise, our Board Game Geek page will also have Dune War of the Arrakis on there as well, amongst a myriad of games, particularly after our recent exploits at Aircon. And Sam, you and I are heading down to UKBGE soon, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. We will be there just on the Saturday.
Yeah,
Just on the Saturday. So we'll take War for Arrakis with us.
Yeah.
And
Hopefully you won't get promoted again.
He's running out of things to buy himself.
I know.
I am. Maybe that's just, the singularity I'm heading towards. When I bought everything, I will eventually stop.
And obviously, pants optional.